Okay guys, if you are confused by Amazon barcodes and shipping labels, then this is the video for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick things off by looking at product barcodes. I'm then going to cover shipping labels. Then as a bonus feature, I'm going to look into GTIN exemption. Then at the end, we've got a quick summary that you can refer to as and when you get to this stage each time that you launch a new product. So product barcodes, you will have surely seen so many of these terms throughout Amazon, throughout YouTube, or wherever you do your FBA research. Now, GTIN, UPC EAN, it is very, very complicated on paper. However, it is very, very simple. So in order to sell on Amazon, each of your products needs what is called a GT identification number. So your GTIN is the top level number that you need. Now, there are different types of GTIN, and this is where the confusion comes in. You get UPCs and you get EANs. Now, the easiest way to remember it is if you're in America, then you're going to be focusing on UPCs, and generally they are a 12-digit GTIN number. If you're in Europe or the UK, then you can have a GTIN 13, which is an EAN number. So that is the quickest way of thinking it. UPC, America, EAN, Europe, 12 digits, 13 digits. That's the easiest idea. So within a GTIN, there are generally two main types. There are others, but these are the two for Amazon that you will be seeing quite a lot of. And then from that, you then take this GTIN to create your listing. So when you're on Amazon and in Seller Central and you're creating your listing, where you put your product ID in, that is where you would put either your UPC or your GTIN, or your EAN. Sometimes if you put your GTIN and paste it in, it will reject that, and you need to make sure you choose EAN instead. Put in your 13-digit number, and it should be absolutely fine. So you create that there. And the good news is, despite how complicated all of these terms are, once you get to the FNSKU stage, which is issued once your product is created in Amazon, so you've gone through this process, you've created your product. Once you've created your product, Amazon issue an FNSKU for your product. And then all of the other bits no longer matter. They are literally only used to create your product. Once they are created, you do not need them any longer. So for all intents and purposes, once we get to this stage here and your listing has been created in Amazon, all you need to do is worry about your FNSKU. That's it. So that's the simplest way to think about it at this stage. Now, whether you buy your GTIN or your UPC or your EAN, it's all the same thing. I always use GS1 UK.org, which is the official issuing body of GS1 barcodes. Now, I know there are cheaper providers available, and also sometimes people buy them off eBay. I would strongly recommend against the eBay approach. Some of the other third-party resellers like Barcode Mania, they should be fine, but I personally wouldn't take the risk, and I always go for the official GS1. Now, the main reason being, if you go to the Amazon website and you read about GTINs and UPCs, and it says here, this is what Amazon say. This is black and white from Amazon. So people who kind of offer an opinion saying these are fine are just guessing, because Amazon are saying we recommend obtaining your product identifier directly from GS1 and not from third parties selling EAN/UPC licenses. So if Amazon are telling you to do that, if you don't, there's that chance that you're going to breach TOS, and then, or let's say, all invalid will be removed, and then potentially your selling privileges could be suspended or banned. So is it really worth the risk for the sake of 120? Let's double check. £120 a year. Yeah, so for your first 1,000 barcodes is £120 per year plus VAT, so about £140 or so. That's for up to £500,000. If you're doing more than £500,000, then I'm sure you're not going to be worried about paying £131 or £203 if you're doing that sort of turnover. So I would recommend GS1 barcodes from the official source. That's my take on that. All right, back to the presentation. So onto the FNSKU, which is the Fulfillment Network Stock Keeping Unit. So basically Amazon's own little identifier for your product. What makes it slightly more confusing is Amazon give you a second identifier, which is your ASIN. But for this video, for product barcode, for shipping, completely ignore that. You don't need to worry about your ASIN. So it's just FNSKU is a key thing you need to remember at this stage. And so once it's been issued, you send this to your supplier, and they will print it directly onto your packaging, or they'll put it on a sticker that is on the packaging for your individual product boxes. So this has to go on every single product that you sell. Now, if you don't want your supplier to do it, Amazon can do it on your behalf, but they will charge you per sticker. So I'd always recommend doing it via your supplier, because very often they won't be charging you to add this sticker to the product because they'll be used to doing it. And it's such a low cost item for them that they shouldn't be charging you. If they are charging you, I would recommend that you do a bit of negotiation and get that included in the price. So once you've got your FNSKU, send it to your supplier and tell them you want it on every single product that they manufacture. And like I said, they'll also give it the ASIN. We've all seen the ASINs in other videos. So if we take an example product such as the chopping boards, that's your ASIN. I mean, generally I only use it for tracking products or tracking my own products. That is the only time I use my ASIN. So it's available up there in the address bar, or it's available further down the page here. But it has nothing to do with your barcode creation or your shipping. So we can basically ignore ASIN for now. Just remember, FNSKU is the thing that matters. So that's product barcodes pretty much summed up. So at this point, you've created your product, you've gone to someone like GS1, you've bought a GTIN barcode, which is either an EAN or a UPC, depending on where you are, and then you've used that 12 or 13 digit barcode to create your product on Amazon, and Amazon have issued an FNSKU. So your FNSKU is also called your product label, and then when you create your shipping plan, Amazon will issue your product labels as well in a nice sheet, which I'll show you in a second. So this scenario, you've gone to Amazon, you've got your first product ready, the suppliers are saying your shipment is going to be ready in a week or so, so you go to Amazon, you create your first shipment. Now there are up to 4 labels that this process will generate. There'll be a minimum of 2 labels, but up to 4. So the first thing they'll issue is your product labels. Like I say, this is your FNSKU, and this will generally look like this. Obviously I've had to blur it out to hide it, but depending on how many products you've got, so if you're selling 1,000 products, Amazon will give you a PDF with 1,000 barcodes. So this, for example, I think there's 24 barcodes on a A4 piece of paper. So you can see they give you the barcode is scanned throughout the shipment process, or sorry, when it gets to the Amazon warehouse, this barcode gets scanned, there'll be the identifier there, your FNSKU, and then there'll be the name of your product as well. So this is how they do it, and they do this the same for your carton label and your pallet labels. This PDF you send to your supplier, and then they can print it out and cut it up or stick it on whatever they want to do, and make sure that it's on every single product that they send. And then they also issue the carton labels, which you could also call your bigger box labels, so to speak. So you might have 20 products per box or 20 products per carton. You know, it's the same thing. Just remember that the Chinese tend to call it cartons. So there's 20, say you've got 20 products per carton, then you'd need 20 individual labels to go on each individual product, and then you'd need 1 carton label for the overall box. There's also, if you've got a big shipment, and generally if you're using a freight forwarder, because people that send big shipments via UPS and DHL, for example, may not be using pallets still, so they might only need product and cartons. But generally, if you're using a freight forwarder who is using pallets, then you will need pallet labels as well. So you send your product and carton labels to your supplier, and your pallet labels, if applicable, you can send to your supplier. But what normally happens is once your freight forwarder brings it into the country, your shipment, they will repackage it to Amazon specs, because the way that your supplier dispatches it probably isn't to Amazon's palletization specifications. So I always send my pallet labels to my freight forwarder, so the shipment gets to the UK, they repackage the pallet, they put the pallet labels on, and then they take it directly to Amazon. So that's how it works. So you've got product labels, carton labels, and pallet labels. And then finally, if applicable, you've got warning labels. So for example, to show you a couple of my shipments, these are older shipments that I have processed. So this one here, this was a C shipment, so this was via a freight forwarder. So you can see when you select these details, mine is less than a truckload, but I'm shipping pallets because I knew my freight forwarder was going to put it on pallets. If I was just shipping individual cartons using something like DHL or UPS, then I'll be choosing the small parcel delivery instead. And then as you come down, you enter the contents of your shipment. So in this instance, I was shipping 2 different products, 750 units of each, and then there's 10 units per box. So you can see that all of this information has been entered, and it would show a description of your product on the left hand side. And then from the information you've entered, Amazon then allow you to generate box labels or carton labels, and also generate the pallet labels as well. So that's the first one, which was, like I say, C shipped and was via my freight forwarder. So this is the other one. This was shipped via UPS, so you can see small parcel delivery. Again, this was 1,000 units with 200 units per box. This is only 5 boxes, and because the box weight here exceeded 15 kilos, there was the additional warning label that this is Amazon give you this, and you have to print it out and make sure it's on all of your carton boxes to show that they are over 15 kilos. And if you go back to here on this shipment, you can see here it all says this carton requires heavy labeled package. So just always keep an eye on what Amazon's recommended. Sometimes it might be because it's hazardous materials, maybe you're shipping batteries. Always keep an eye out because there might be additional labels, but usually product and carton are essential. pallet is optional, and then obviously different warning labels are optional as well, but if they are issued, you must apply them to your shipment. So back to this. Okay, so that's hopefully explained to you how you kind of get your barcode, create your shipment. But there is one thing that I was made aware of by one of my subscribers, and that is something called GTIN Exemption, which means that your product may not need to have a barcode in the first place. Now, I'll be honest, this isn't something I've used before. However, based on the research I've carried out today, it looks like it is a genuine thing. There's no real reason that I've seen why you guys might not be able to try this to see if it's possible. So how it works, it's available to private label sellers, and if we go to Amazon's official pages, I've got so many tabs open for this show. Where are we? So how to list products that do not have a GTIN. So eligible cases for the exemption. So there we go. It says exactly what we are. If the brand, manufacturer or publisher does not provide a GTIN for the product, for example, private label products, that's us. So we are effectively our own brand for this, and we don't have to provide GTIN. And Amazon make it a lot easier than they used to. You scroll down, they provide a letter that you can use, and I've quickly downloaded it. You can see that it's a very simple letter that you complete to pretty much say that this product is applicable for GTIN exemption. So you fill out this letter, save it as a scanned PDF. They want it to be so there, so obviously, or image. Make sure you always save it as Amazon want it to be. There's no point in sending them a Word document. They want a PDF or an image. And then once you click onto the request approval, you will be brought to this screen, and this is where you can choose the categories that you want to apply for. So you can apply for multiple categories and for different brands. So if you've got one brand that you can plan to be selling in 2 or 3 categories, you might want to do one application and do it all at the start. Otherwise, just pick one category with your one brand and submit your application. And from what I understand, it takes a few days for them then to approve it. But like I say, if anyone's actually using this, let me know in the comments below. Let me know if it's as easy as it seems and whether we can actually save a load of money and none of us have to use GS1 barcodes in the first place. So let me know in the comments below on that. So like I say, it's available to private sellers. You submit the letter to cover your brand and 1 or more categories, and then you wait for approval, which I presume is a few days based on what I saw on the forums, but potentially could be longer, who knows. Other than that, I can't offer any more information, but let me know below if you can. So barcode cheat sheet, it's not really a cheat sheet, it's just 5 quick steps to remember so that when you get to the stage each time, you can remember how to do it. So step 1, you need to buy a GTIN, unless you're applying for an exemption, of course, from GS1. And if you're in Europe, it's an EAN, and if you're in America, it's a UPC. You then use that to create your listing in Seller Central. Then Amazon issue your FNSKU, which is your product code, and then you can completely forget about your UPC, your EAN, or your GTIN. It doesn't matter anymore once you've got the FNSKU. You then send your FNSKU to your supplier, and they will put it on every single product. And then you need to create your shipment in Seller Central, where you will then be issued with your product barcodes, which you can send to your supplier, your carton barcodes, and if necessary, pallet and warning labels as well. And then you send all of those to the relevant supplier and or freight forwarder, and that's it. So it's a lot, it's a lot easier than all those initial terms, make it appear to be. And finally, if you found this video useful, which hopefully you did, I watched a lot of videos on YouTube before I made this, and a lot of them missed a lot of the key details. So please like this video and subscribe to the channel.